Odysseus the King. News of the suitor's death had spread throughout the city. All night rumors had been rife. By dawn it was confirmed. There was a shocked and stormy gathering in the assembly place. Hundreds of Ithacans had lost relatives or friends. Eupeithes, father of Antonius, argued passionately for revenge. "Fellow citizens," he declaimed through tears of grief and anger, "look what this king of ours had done to his people. 20 years ago he left with 12 ships and the flower of Ithacan youth. They were lost to us forever. Now he has returned to kill a second generation, our sons and the sons of our brothers and cousins left behind when they sailed for Troy. We must avenge them and rid our people of this scourge. Odysseus, fellow Ithacans, take up your arms and follow me." It was old Halitherses, friend of Telemachus, who answered him. "No, my friends, we must not blame Odysseus for the death of these young men. We ourselves are to blame. We let them do as they pleased until they were beyond our control, terrorizing the country and making up their own laws as they went along. And it was the gods who decided they should die. It can do no good to attack Odysseus now. It will only bring more death and suffering, as we've suffered enough." Many of them agreed with these wise words, but there were just as many who went bent on revenge. Shouting down the rest, they brandished their swords and spears and marched to the palace with Eupeithes at the lead. Cries of "Death to Odysseus" echoed through the streets, shattering the early morning peace. Outside the palace gates, Odysseus and Telemachus stood waiting. Athena stood beside them, wrapped in an invisible mist, as they watched the angry mob approach. It was Eupeithes who led them to the charge. He raised his spear and ran at Odysseus with a blood-curdling yell, but he never reached him. A sudden thunderbolt came from the sky and struck him to the ground. At once Athena stepped forward out of the mist, dressed in gleaming gold. The Ithacans dropped back in awe. "Good men of Ithaca, my father Zeus has spoken. Let this death be the last. There's been too much bloodshed in this land. Odysseus has returned, and justice has been done. Now you should make your peace, remember the dead, and welcome Odysseus home. And you," said Athena, turning to Odysseus, "should put down your sword, forgive those who forgive you, and earn your people's love." Athena was right. There had already been too much bloodshed. Odysseus went among his people and embraced them, weeping for both sorrow and joy. After, back at the palace, he asked for a great feast of thanksgiving to be prepared. Then he went out with Penelope beside him to look at his old father Laertes at his hills and the farm. They found him bent sadly over his hoe. His garden was taken care of, but Laertes himself looked wasted and disordered. When he saw Odysseus, he fainted, and for a moment they thought that the shock had killed him. Happily, he soon recovered, and after many tears and fond words, he went back with them to the palace. It was a memorable feast. Most of Ithaca had somehow squeezed into the great hall. There was a great deal of sorrow, for so many had died, but there was also great joy for everyone who felt that the time of peace and happiness had come. At long last, after 20 years, Odysseus and Penelope sat together by the fire with their people all around them. There was a great wonder, too, for after they had eaten and drunk to the gods in the memory of their dead, they clamored for Odysseus to tell his story. They then listened spellbound to every adventure as he told them of the lotus eaters and the Cyclops and Circe and Hades and the Sirens and Calypso, and of gods and goddesses, and of much more, much, much more. It was a story that they would hear again, many, many times, and one that they would discuss endlessly among themselves. It was a story to cherish for as long as they lived.